In response to many questions about this Audio-Technica AT-LP60 stereo turntable, we are going to go over some stuff today that may help you, and that is, how do you connect this turntable to something so that you can hear what comes out of it. The most often question I get in response to my other video is, can I just hook speakers directly up to this turntable? And the answer, of course, is no. One of my responders, the Quizno Kid, has said, oh yeah, I'd like to see one of these turntables hooked up in someone's car. So I'm also going to show you how to hook this up to your car, if you'd really like to do that. Kind of silly, but it really can happen. Alright, so if you want to listen to your LPs on the highway, I'll show you how to do that too. Alright, so first off, let's go over some of the things that are most often asked, and they are the things that I did not go over in the first video. Alright, let's turn this turntable around here and look at the back, because we didn't do that on the first video. Alright, as you can see right here, there is a jack, not a jack, I'm sorry, a switch. Alright, over here you see phono and you see line. Alright, now phono means you're going to connect this turntable up to a receiver that has a phono input. Okay, and then line means you're going to connect it to some device that has a line level input, also known as an auxiliary input, or on many modern devices it's going to say something like MP3 player or something along those lines, iPod perhaps. Okay, so this is your switch. One of the things that we mentioned in the other video is that this turntable is not the greatest turntable on the face of the earth. I'm not saying that, okay? What I'm saying is this is a modern turntable that you can buy online that has a built-in preamplifier. And you say, well, why do I need what's a preamplifier? Well, it's something that is a requirement for any turntable that has a magnetic phono cartridge in it, all right? And this turntable happens to have a magnetic phono cartridge, all right? That's the pickup that's behind the stylus, that's this white part here. All right, so you have your stylus, you have your magnetic pickup, and then you need, on the other end of it, a preamp. All right, now something to compare that to is a microphone. Most modern microphones made nowadays need a preamp before they can be amplified because their signal is so weak. All right, so a phono cartridge is very similar in its, I guess, its needs to a microphone, because it needs a preamp. So that's what makes this turntable fantastic for the average person who's never gotten into a turntable before, because it provides you with a preamplifier built in. Okay, all right. So again, I've had some people say, oh my gosh, you don't want this turntable, there's so many better turntables out there. Okay, yes, you're right. If you're just getting into turntables, you might want to get a hold of a Technics turntable. Not Technica, but Technics. Make some fantastic used turntables. I don't know if Technics still makes them. They might. But they're readily available on Craigslist and eBay. You can find a Technics turntable. So, anyway, let's move on. Alright, so you say, okay, what can I hook this up to? This is the output you get with this turntable. These are called RCA plugs. Alright? This is not an output in the sense that you can hook these right up to a pair of speakers. You cannot. Alright? This has to be amplified. Alright? You might get by with hooking a pair of headphones up to this guy and just listening to it with a pair of headphones, but you're not going to have a volume control on those headphones, unless of course the headphones have a volume control. So, and that is with the preamp turned on, okay, with it on line. So let's move over to some types of devices that you can connect this guy up to. All right. The first one I have here is a mini bookshelf system, and many people would call this a receiver. So, but this is just an all-in-one receiver. This one happens to have a CD player in the top, and it has an FM/AM tuner in it. And that's what makes it a receiver. But a receiver is also an amplifier. So whenever you hear that terminology used, Any receiver can also be an amplifier, all right? Otherwise, it's just a radio, all right? So, what we have here is a mini bookshelf receiver that happens to have the inputs on it that you would need to connect the turntable. And it has an auxiliary or line in on it, okay? So the receiver, at least for this turntable, does not have to have a phono input on it. If it has a phono input, you can use that, but you'll have to switch it to the phono input switch on the back, or at least to that setting on the back, okay? So this is a perfect candidate to hook your turntable up to it because it has a line or auxiliary input on it, okay? And then you have to connect speakers, and those speakers will connect here, all right? So you're connecting this guy, and notice the red and white. So I'm going to hook this into there, all right, like that. And then I'm going to hook my speakers up here, and then I'm going to turn my stereo around, and I'm going to hit this auxiliary button. As soon as it's powered up, I'll hit auxiliary, and then my turntable will play. Okay? So this is one scenario, and like I said, there's lots of different receivers out there and amplifiers. You can find those on Craigslist or eBay, or even Best Buy carries an entry-level stereo amplifier receiver for about $100. Okay? All right, here's the next scenario. Maybe you have one of these guys, okay? This is an iPod dock, all right? Notice the connector for the iPod right here. This one also has, as an option, there it is, folks, line in. See it right there? All right, so line in. So you say, all right, if I've got my RCA plugs, grabbing it for you here, notice these plugs are not going to fit into this line input, okay? It actually kind of does fit in there, but only by pure coincidence. All right, but there's two of them. This is stereo, left and right. How do we get it into that hole? Well, you're going to need an adapter. And I believe that this turntable comes with this adapter, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, this very one that I'm holding here comes with it. So here's what you do. You connect these wires together with this. I'm a little out of focus here. There we go. All right, so we hook up these wires here, and then on the end here, you have a headphone jack. In that case, you'll need one of these wires. All right, notice it's got the headphone jack plug on both ends. I can plug this into this, and I can plug this into this. Voila! I am now connected to an iPod dock. All right. I used to have an alarm clock radio that had an iPod dock on it that also had an auxiliary input on the back, so you could use that. Okay, so there's a scenario. Next, let's say all you have is an FM tuner. You could use one of these tune-free audio FM transmitters and just play your turntable through a radio. You say, how do you do that? Well, same scenario again, back with the same plugs, all right? But instead of using this wire here, we're going to unplug that, and we would just plug the FM tuner into there. And then this guy here would govern what radio station you're going to tune into to listen to the turntable. Very cheap way of having an amplifier. So if you've got an FM stereo radio in the house, even a boom box, you could play your turntable through an FM radio, all right? Which is another way you could do it in your car if you happen to have it plugged into your car. All right? My biggest suggestion to people who say, what can I hook this thing up to, is a pair of computer speakers. Computer speakers are perfect. Now, this isn't going to give you the audio fidelity that an amplifier or a receiver would do for you, but it's functional, okay? So with most of these happen to be ones that came with a Dell computer. You have on the end a little green plug, that same stereo headphone jack plug that we saw earlier, all right? So how do you hook this guy up? Similar scenario. Same adapter here. See how valuable this adapter is. Take your green plug, plug it into there, and then take your RCA jacks from your turntable, and red goes to red, and in this case black goes to white. Now, why they decided to make it black and not white, I have no idea. But anyway, that's how you match it up. If you have one color that's the same, match those two, and then the other one would be the other one. Okay? So here we've got RCA to this adapter to the green connector on the end of the stereo speakers that came with your computer. Isn't that cool? All right. So next I'm going to show you what a preamplifier looks like, and then we're going to hook this up to a car. All right. Okay, let's say you decide that this Audio Technica is a piece of junk and you really want a Technics. If you do that route, then you are going to need one of these preamplifiers. And I found this one online. It's made by Art Accessories. It's a DJ Pre 2 phono preamplifier. It has quite a few options on it that most of us probably won't use, but you can kind of experiment with them as far as the sound quality goes. The main one to be concerned about is this gain trim here. So this is going to provide you a little bit of a volume control for your output. So you would hook your Technics turntable to your preamplifier, and notice it says preamp line in right there. So you hook the turntable there, and then these would go to your amplifier or your receiver. All right. So you can even use a turntable such as a Technics with one of these products if you have one of these preamplifiers. All right. Now there's a power plug that goes there, which I don't have hooked up at the moment, and then right here is a ground wire connector. That is a sure sign that the turntable you have bought does not have a preamplifier in it if there's this third wire that just hangs out of the back. Sometimes there's a little Y clip on the back that just hooks in here. Sometimes they fall off and there's just a wire. In which case the wire is going to need to wrap around this pole, all right, wrap around this guy, and then tighten it down. If you don't put the ground wire on there, you're going to get a loud 60 hertz hum out of your amplifier, no matter what kind you got. Okay, so ground wire goes there, turntable hooks in here, this preamp line out part here is going to go into your receiver or amplifier. Again, if you have a receiver that says phono on the front, you don't need one of these. Okay, if it says phono on the receiver, then the receiver already has a preamplifier built in. Okay, so just something else to look out for if you happen to not like the Audio Technica and want to go with something a little better. Also, I've had people ask me, well, is this turntable good for DJing? And I would say no. This turntable is not that durable. It's fine to sit on a shelf and play records on at home, but I would not travel with this guy to, you know, concerts, parties, whatever. Just because it's kind of, you know, it's well built, but it's not toughly built. You need something a little tougher for that scenario. All right, so next thing we're going to do, we're going to actually see one of these hooked up in your car. Now, I'm kind of going against myself saying that you shouldn't travel with it, but you know, if you're just going to put it in the floorboard of your car and play records, I think it'll survive that. Just you know, don't throw a laptop bag on top of it or something. But let's do that next. All right, so here we are in my 2008 Ford Focus, and next to me here in the seat is my Audio Technica ATLP60 turntable. And let's see, I've got my audio adapter here, the one we looked at earlier, and I've got the headphone plug to headphone plug on here as well. Okay, so in this particular car, you have a jack to connect a line in. Okay, in fact, it even says line in right there. So what you would want to do is take the RCA plugs, hook them into your adapter, and then again plug your cable that has the headphone jack plug on both sides, and plug that into your line level input on your car. Okay, and you say, all right, well, where are you going to plug the power in at? Well, on my particular car, I happen to have one of these power inverters, and I paid about, I think about 40 bucks for it at Walmart. And you can see it's I've actually got it mounted underneath my seat here, so you can see that it's powered up and ready to go. And I've got the power plug for the turntable plugged right into that. All right. And then again, I've got the line input on my car already set up and ready to go. On mine, strangely enough, it says line everywhere else, but here it says auxiliary. So you hit auxiliary to get line, which, you know, hey, that makes perfect sense. All right. So once you've done that, then you can power on your turntable and you can play a song in the car. Look at that. Now, to prevent any offense by YouTube due to copyright stuff, I'm not going to play anything for you, but just to show you that I'm getting some sound, all you have to do is pick up the needle, rub the needle, and you can see I'm getting sound out of my car speakers. Also getting a little bit of a buzz. Not sure where that's at, but interesting. Okay, so just a couple of things. You would want to make sure that your turntable is fairly level in the car. I've got an owner's manual stuck underneath here on the side to kind of prop it up a little and make it as level as possible. Some modern cars have a power plug in them. Like I saw some minivans at a car show this past year that had an actual AC plug in the van, so you didn't even need an inverter. So in that case, all you would have to do is make sure you had an auxiliary line level input for the output from the Audio Technica. But there you go. This is what the scenario would be like if you wanted to take this in your car. Your car better have some really good suspension. It better ride like a cloud. Otherwise, going down the highway, the needle is going to bounce all over the record and may even ruin your record. So my advice would be, if you're just a regular Joe like me, I would only use this in, like, let's say you wanted to go camping and show off your buddies that you could play, LPs in your car, maybe at a campsite or something along those lines. That might be a better scenario than driving down the highway with it playing. But if your car happens to have good suspension, I would imagine that you would do pretty well playing an LP while going down the highway. You might actually enjoy the high fidelity sound of your car's amplifier. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully it has helped someone out there hook this wonderful turntable up to something so that they can hear some fantastic music. Because you know what? It's really not about turntables. It's about music. It's about enjoying music, and it's about hearing a different type of sound from LP as opposed to the tinny and somewhat canny sound of today's modern downloaded MP3s. And even CDs have a tendency to be harsh and shrill in their output, but listening to some old rock and roll or some old pop records from way back when might add a little warmth to your life. And literally, because that's what people say, it has a warm sound to it. And I hope you enjoy your record collecting hobby. Any questions? Feel free to ask.